Boatworks Today is a viewer-supported show. To learn more on how you can get involved and watch extended ad-free versions of these videos, please visit our website, boatworkstoday.com, and click on the top of the heading where it says Support This Show. Thank you. What is going on, everybody? I hope you're doing well. My name is Andy with Boatworks Today, and this week I had a little bit of a curveball thrown at me. So as you can see, I'm up on the foredeck of this Bertram, and when I came in on Monday morning, I had full intentions of just basically doing a quick clean and then getting started on all the stress cracks that I was aware of up here. So this boat's been in cold storage for 2-3 years. I mean, inside of a building, but cold storage. And it was just dirty and dusty and whatever. So just, I had to do a cleaning just to make sure that I could actually see everything that needed to be addressed. And when I was up here cleaning, there are a lot more stress cracks up here now than there were even just 3 weeks ago, whenever we brought the boat in. So I find that just very odd. I mean, the boat hasn't moved, so how is that happening? The second issue that I noticed was that while I was moving, there was an awful lot of flex, on this deck, and this isn't that wide of an area. This should be pretty much solid as a rock. So I thought, well, that was just kind of odd, but I didn't really think too much about it. It was still early Monday morning. So then, as I started kind of working around the perimeter, there was just an awful lot of cracking going on. Like pretty much everywhere I stepped. And let me just say, when you hear that kind of cracking, that ain't cool. There's something else going on. Now, there's one thing to keep in mind here on this project is that before I took on the boat, there was an awful lot of work that had already been done. I mean, it had been technically restored cosmetically and structurally, supposedly. So I don't know what they did, when they were doing this restoration. I don't know what they did, how they did it, what materials they used, or none of that. I have no idea. So a lot of this is a little bit of like chasing down a mystery as far as trying to figure out what they did. And if this was technically already all done, why are all these cracks popping up and there's this much flexing and cracking going on? So just something doesn't add up. So I started taking a much closer look around the perimeter here, to try and see, well, did they even do any repair work up here? Is this still original? That kind of thing. And as I was kind of feeling around, there's areas on the deck here where there's just some weird humps, like right around, say, like up on this dash. When you're coming up here, I mean, this should be just a nice, smooth transition coming up into here. Well, there's a weird lip, a weird bump right here, and that bump carries through all around the hatch and all around the forward, part of this windshield. Now, by taking a straight edge and moving across here, you can see right now the straight edge it's flush on the deck. Now, as I get closer towards right, where the windshield starts, you start to see a little bit of a gap open up there, and it continues to grow until it gets to about right here, which is, I don't know how well that's coming up on camera, but that is not quite 1/8 of an inch. So in trying to chase down a problem, there's always two things that I do. And the first one is, I want to see what the condition of the core is. So, I take out my moisture meter and I take some readings around the deck. So the first thing I do is I always make sure that my meter is dialed in. So it zeroes out. And right now, the way that I have this calibrated is that when it's reading 10%, 10% just basically means that it is bone perfectly dry. There isn't a bit of moisture in there anywhere. So take readings over the whole deck, about every foot, give or take. But right now, everything is just absolutely dry. Perfect. So the next thing I'll do is what's called like a hammer test or a tap test. And I forgot to bring my screwdriver up here, so I'm going to have to use the back part of my knife here. But essentially, when you're tapping around the deck, you're looking for odd sounds, just things that just don't sound right. So good morning. It is the following day, and I spent the better part of last night trying to figure out what would be the best way to approach this. And I guess the way I see it there's really three options, that I can come up with. So option number one, take the easy route and just do nothing. Just address the cracks, keep my fingers crossed, and hope that nothing comes back to bite me. But I know better than that. I know it will come back to bite me. So I mean, while it is technically an option, it's not one that I'm going to run with. Now, option number two would be to try and take a closer look at what's going on underneath this deck and see if there's a way that I can beef it up from down below. And what I was anticipating to find was that the plywood that's underneath here was going to be, for the most part, delaminated. I thought it was just going to come down in a couple of big sheets, and that was going to be that. But that is not the case. That is not the case at all. That plywood is the original plywood, and it is very, very well bonded. There may be some things that I can do down the road, like if I wanted to put in some laminated beams across here, they would be kind of decorative as well as kind of support it, but that's not, I don't think that's the big picture fix. Now, option number three, which is the one I'm leaning towards, and I'll explain why here in a minute, but option number three is to just build up this deck from the top side. Lay up 2, 3, maybe even 4 more layers of, say, 1708, get the whole deck fared back in, and and then move forward that way. That does a couple of things. One, it's going to stabilize the surface, so it's going to prevent, since it'll be new material, it's going to prevent any future cracks from being able to open back up, because the entire deck will then be stabilized with new fiberglass, new modern fiberglass. And the reason I'm leaning in that direction is gravity is going to be working with me. Rather than trying to do something underneath here and be working upside down and trying to manage new plywood and wet glass, flopping down on top of me. I've been there, I've done that. I can't say it's a real fun rodeo. So working from the top side, gravity is working with me, and it's just a lot easier way to approach this. Now, if you recall earlier in the video, I had made some comments where there's, just kind of like a weird, funky lip that I can feel when I get right up towards this windshield here. Again, this is a guessing game on my part, but what I suspect happened is that the previous owner, when they were doing the work up here, I think that they removed a lot of the material from the top, just doing some general grinding and sanding, and they never filled it back in. So they've reduced the thickness of this deck and then just tried to make it work. True, I might be completely off on this and wrong, but if I approach the situation that way, it explains everything that was just kind of making me scratch my head. It explains the reason that there's these humps around the perimeter on here. It also explains why the deck flexes so much. There's just not much material that's left. And same thing with the cracking, all the stress cracks on here. I mean, if there isn't that much material left, what's going to keep those cracks from just popping through every little flex that the deck takes? So right or wrong, that's the approach I'm going to be taking, just because logically it's what makes sense to me. So I mean, that's great, that I think I understand why all this is happening, but the flip side of that is that, well, this ended up being just essentially a week of troubleshooting. It didn't really give me a whole lot of content to work with for putting together this video. But, I suppose I just need to take it for what it is. I mean, it's progress, a little bit of progress, baby steps, but it's still a step forward going in the right direction, I think. So, since I wasn't anticipating having to sand all of this down and get all new glass laid up on this deck, it also means I don't have the materials to do it quite yet. So I am going to have to button up this video right now so I can go get all that stuff ordered, so it'll be here early next week. I'm hoping on Monday. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you found it interesting, if not helpful, because, well, like I said, it was just a bunch of troubleshooting. But in any event, if you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those down below. And also, if you happen to have a Bertram of this age and style, I would be interested to hear if you have some of these other oddities, going on with your boat. So if you do, please chime in and let me know down below in the comments. And until next time, have a great week, and thanks for watching.
This has been a Boatworks Today production.